Hey everyone, Bond here from Dr. Pennsylvania. Here with another past periodical, this one number 11. Just a quick warning, if you hear any noise in the background in this one, when Nick was recording it, his furnace was kicking on a bunch of times because it is and was about 3 degrees outside. And though we didn't get the 50 plus inches that Erie got, we're only about an hour south of there, so it's cold outside right now. But this one comes from the Reading Eagle, January 2nd, 1917, so almost, or I guess when this comes out, it'll probably be just over 100 years ago. And the title is Prominent Philadelphian is Suspected in Death of Beautiful Model.
Prominent Philadelphian is suspected of the murder of the beautiful model, known as the girl with the divine form. Philadelphia, January 2nd. These are uneasy days for many men residing in Philadelphia. The leading question is, who killed Grace Roberts? She was widely known as the girl with the divine form. The net of circumstantial evidence is closing about a man well known both in this city and New York, according to the police. The battered body of Mrs. Roberts was found in her apartment. Information in the possession of the officials points to a prominent Philadelphia reformer and official as one of the brilliant coterie of friends with which the girl surrounded herself. Already the first sinister whisper of possible arrest has stirred the Philadelphia society. According to the detectives, a man and a woman are under surveillance, the man as an actual murderer, the woman as his best friend, who, it is believed, knows something about the crime. If things turn out according to our plans, we will have a slayer before the day is over, said a detective. Continuing, it is only a question of time now, but we are certain we are on the right track, and there will be interesting developments. Captain of Detectives Tate said today, we are much nearer a solution than we were yesterday. This is one of the most perplexing crimes in recent years, but it has not stumped us. The mystery requires a process of elimination, a weeding out of all the dead woman's friends. She was acquainted with so many lawyers, newspapermen, physicians, businessmen, detectives, theatrical people, hotel men, and others that we do not want to jump to any rash conclusion. I am cautioning my men to be absolutely certain of their ground before they do anything. As to whether the son of a wealthy brewer upstate, the son of a baseball magnate of this city, and others whose names have been linked to that woman as acquaintances are to be questioned. Captain Tate said, we will question every person who knew Miss Colbert. The captain said there was no more reason to implicate a brewer's son and a baseball man's son in the model's death than to believe that numerous other Philadelphians who knew her were mixed up in it. Detectives have gone to Milford, Delaware to bring back Mrs. Roberts' colored maid Eleanor. She is expected to shed light on many of her mistress's frequent visitors. Although the servant did not disappear immediately after the tragedy, as had first been believed, her presence will greatly assist the search for the slayer. She left Mrs. Roberts' employ at Christmas, but was familiar with her habits and associates. According to Richard Benjamin, the janitor, the murder suspect is aggressive, powerful physique, stocky and pugnacious. Jealousy prompted the man who strangled the girl with one of her own silk stockings. Then, having set the stage to indicate she might have committed suicide, he disappeared. This is the opinion of many who are investigating the crime. The young woman, whose real name is Mazzie Colbert, was killed in her handsomely furnished apartment at 15th and Poplar Streets between the early hours of Friday morning and 11 o'clock that day, although the crime was not discovered until many hours later. The police found on the dresser and in the bureau drawers autographed pictures of men prominent in the political, social, and club life of Philadelphia. There were other photographs without autographs. The men whose pictures the detectives discovered were of such wide prominence in the life of the city that the detectives immediately realized they had what might develop into one of the most remarkable crime stories it had ever fallen to them to handle. They found in the trunks and the bureau drawers masses of letters, many of them, it is reliably reported from some of the original photographs. Some of these are reported to be love letters of tempestuous character. Letters said and photographs were promptly seized. Both have been guarded with the utmost care. Detective Captain Tate declined to give the slightest hint as to the identity of the men whose photographs adorned the dresser. Of the girl with the divine form, he said he has not seen them. Later, he admitted that some of them might be pictures of prominent Philadelphians. Although guarded with such care from the general public, the Detective Bureau lost no time in making use of the clues these letters and photographs afforded. All day long, plainclothes men have been scurrying about town questioning the prominent men and that influential citizen as to the knowledge and relations with Grace Roberts. There is no room to doubt that some of Philadelphia's most prominent clubmen, politicians, and men who have taken a prominent part in the nightlife of the city spent a most uncomfortable day, nor that they will read the newspapers with keenest anxiety to see if their names have been connected with that of the dead model. The clues afforded by the pictures and the voluminous correspondence are almost endless. The murder squad started right in on a process of elimination. It wasn't the result of this work which convinced the officials that they were on a hot trail and led to dispatching of a squad of search men for the arrest they believe can solve the mystery of the murder. Hours were spent working on a lead furnished by Richard Benjamin, Negro janitor of the apartment house in which Mrs. Roberts lived. There was a man, said Benjamin, who was a frequent visitor of Miss Roberts. He always drove up in a 7-passenger touring car and tooted his horn. Miss Roberts would come to her window, and if she was alone, she would signal him, and he would go in. But if she were not, she would make another signal, and he would wave his hand and drive on. We nicknamed him Bulldog around here. That's what he all called him. Because his looks, we called him the Bulldog. Benjamin gave a description of this bulldog, and this description is said to fit a man prominent in Philadelphia. All day long, the name of this man was the chief subject for discussion round the Detective Bureau, and it is understood that detectives of the murder squad had proved that this official had known Grace Roberts when he worked in the Keith building as a manicure, and had been friendly with her ever since, and had seen much of her. Detectives were sent out to investigate an apparently well-founded story that Miss Roberts just before Christmas had pawned a handsome diamond cavalier to buy this man a Christmas present. This lead has not been exhausted. Officials declined to say what the late developments in connection with it were, but it is a fact that Miss Roberts had the diamond ornament up to a few days before Christmas when it disappeared. Asked by her friends of its disappearance, she turned the question aside with a laugh. Another discovery was made by the murder squad. They found that about 12 months ago, the door to Miss Roberts' apartment had been broken open while she was absent from the apartment. Her bureau drawers rifled, but nothing with the exception of several letters had been taken. Then Miss Roberts reported to Janitor Benjamin and the police. About 3 months ago, according to Benjamin and several postmen, the letterbox of her apartment was broken open. For more than 4 hours, a heavy-set, well-dressed, good-looking young man was questioned by Captain Tate. He was brought in by detectives as a suspect. He was finally released, and Lieutenant Scanlon of the Detective Bureau told a reporter that he had been entirely exonerated. Later, a young woman wearing expensive furs was brought to the Detective Bureau for questioning. Just before her arrival, the newspapermen gathered in an outer room through which she must pass, where she was asked to step into another room. And thus the woman of mystery, as she was immediately called, avoided any chance of being recognized. There were others brought to the Bureau, and asked to tell of Grace Roberts. Captain Tate ordered the name of every person questioned by him to be kept a secret for the present. In the process of elimination, the police have developed 2 theories as to the murderer. One is that he is the real sweetheart of Miss Roberts, the man whom she loved and who committed the crime either through jealousy or because she told him on Friday night that she had wearied of him. The other, that he is the man who had given her the valuable jewelry found in her apartment, and other pieces of even greater value which she is believed to have pawned, and that he was prompted to murder by the discovery that she was friendly with other men, by finding that she had sold his gift and make presents for another. Miss Roberts was born in the little town of Kane, Pennsylvania. While she was a young girl there, her perfect figure attracted attention, and friends advised her to seek her fortune in a big city. She came here and obtained employment soon as a manicurist in the Keith building. It was as a manicurist the detectives found that she first began her wide acquaintance with well-known men in the city. A manicurist employed there now, who knew her well, said this afternoon, "We jokingly called Grace the queen of the manicurists. All of us girls envied her. She wore furs and diamonds and came to work every morning in a limousine, and all the men were crazy about her. Believe me, Grace never had to walk home. There was always a big car waiting to take her. Her figure, declared to be the most perfect of any woman in Philadelphia, was not long in attracting attention. She soon quit the manicuring business. The symmetry of her limbs attracted the attention of a hosiery firm. She agreed to pose for it. She posed for manufacturers of glove-fitting petticoats and for corset makers, to whom her figure appealed as a valuable medium for advertising. In the last few months, it is said, she did little work of this kind. The apartment house in which she lived is one of the most expensive in that part of the city. She had furs, beautiful clothes, expensive jewelry, and appeared to be well supplied with money. The stories told by Miss Marie Collins, who was her closest friend in the building, by George F. Miller, who had the apartment across the hall from her, and of her own relatives, they all agree as to her popularity and the large number of her callers. Janitor Benjamin is said to have given the detectives much valuable information concerning men who visited Miss Roberts, but he refused to speak to newspapermen. There was a reason. 2 detectives were with him, but after they left, Benjamin declared, "I can't say a word." He had his orders. Miss Bessie Colbert, Grace Roberts' sister, was found by a reporter in a highly nervous condition which soon developed into hysteria. Earlier, she admitted to the police that her sister was not a widow, had no right to the name of Roberts, and in fact had never been married at all. So far, the police have been unable to find where the blood-stained man's shirt and collar found in Miss Roberts' apartment came from. They got a further setback when the fingerprints discovered about the room proved valueless, too bleared and indistinct for police purposes. Whether the blurring was done intentionally and affords further proof of the cunning of the murderer, or whether it was because of natural or accidental circumstances, it is an interesting point. There is reason to believe that Captain Tate and his men have made material progress towards the solution of this murder mystery. Extraordinary efforts are being made by the police to keep the work secret. It appears plainly the policy of the department not to permit the breath and scandal to touch any of the prominent friends of the girl with the divine form, except those who may prove to be implicated in her death, should any prove to be.